Hi, I'm Becky. Thanks for joining us again in the Hillbilly Kitchen for our series of country breakfast videos. This morning I'm going to be making biscuits with butter, and you can use this method for any solid oil, shortening, lard. I choose to use butter if I'm going to use something solid because shortening is not exactly all natural, and you can't get the lard that your granny used when she used to kill a pig in the winter and have it processed. So the basic biscuit recipe is very simple. Before you get started, you want to turn your oven on 415 to preheat it, and you may have to adjust that a few degrees depending on your oven. But it's 2 cups of flour, 3/4 of a cup of milk, and 1/3 of a cup of whatever kind of oil you're using, or grease. In this case I'm using butter. That recipe will make about 10 to 12 biscuits depending on how big you make them. So you adjust the batch up or down for the size of the crowd you're feeding. If you're going to be feeding a dozen people, you're going to want to double it. I am just making biscuits for my husband, so I'm cutting it in half today. But when you're doing it, the key, like I said, is in the method. And you don't want to over process your biscuit though. That's what makes them stiff, and it makes them, it just makes them hard. They're not fluffy and they have no flavor. So I'm going to start out by putting my flour in my bowl. And then you want to add your grease to it. In this case I'm using butter. And I'm going to use a whisk to cut this in. You can use a whisk, a dough knife, a fork. You can even use a mixer, but it would get a bit messy. And to keep the mess down to a minimum, I've put wax paper down under my bowl. And since we're going to have to dump this biscuit dough out onto the floured paper anyway, wax paper is a really good idea. It'll save you a lot of cleanup time. This doesn't take very long. You're just going to take your time and kind of cut that grease, whatever kind you're using, down into bits. I like the whisk. It works really good. You can see how it's tearing off in little pieces. That's what you want. You don't want to start chopping it up right in the middle, because you're going to end up with it all stuck inside your whisk. And if you do, it's not a big deal. Just take a knife or something and rake it out and start over. It just seems like it goes a little faster and a little smoother if you start chipping away at the edge. You want to continue to do this until you don't have any big lumps of your grease left at all. Okay, you can see now that we have got that butter completely worked into the flour, and there's no longer any large lumps of butter. You're just going to dump your milk into that, and with a spoon start going around the edges to mix the milk in with the flour and the butter. Now you don't want to overwork this. You just want to get all your liquid absorbed. Take just a little more flour and sprinkle it out on your wax paper. Scrape your dough out and dump it out in the flour. Now, in case your mama didn't tell you, make sure you wash your hands before you start making biscuits, because you're going to get them in it. Now, we don't want to work this much. We just want to fold it over a few times so that our biscuits have some layers in them. That's probably good right there. See, the top's nice and smooth. I have a fancy biscuit cutter somewhere, but Lord only knows where it is. I've used this little tomato paste can for years, and it makes a nice sized biscuit and works good. So you can buy a fancy biscuit cutter, or you can save you a tomato paste can. You do want to make sure that the bottom of your biscuits have a little flour on them, because you don't grease your biscuit pan at all, and that keeps them from sticking, and it also keeps the bottom of them from burning. It's got just a little flour on there. Just folding that these few times, my dough is starting to get stiff, and once your dough gets stiff, you're in danger of having tough biscuits. So I said you want to be careful not to over process it. I'm right there at the limit now, and you can see how many times I've folded it. Okay, I'm going to stick these in the oven for 15 minutes, and we'll be back in 15 minutes to look at them. Okay, our butter biscuits have been in the oven for 15 minutes. You can see now they are brown on the top. They rose up really nice. These are going to be some super light biscuits. Going to take a stick of butter, and we're just going to let a little melt over the top of them. And this is good for the texture and the taste. These are super light and fluffy. I mean, when I put them in the pan, they were maybe 1/4 inch thick. They are huge now. So I want to thank you again for joining us in the Hillbilly Kitchen for our breakfast series of videos. Be sure to check them all out. Click like and subscribe. And we're going to make some sausage gravy. You split a couple of these bad boys open and pour some of that sausage gravy on them, you can get anything you want out of your pan. New washer, dryer, new car, whatever. If there's something you want, fix him up some of these biscuits and some gravy. So join us next time.